And greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. And, of course, it's Friday, so it's Brunch with Bernie, but it's a special Brunch with Bernie. We have Bernie right here in the studio with us. Senator Sanders, it is an honor to have you in our humble space.
Great to be with you, Thom.
Thank you so much. What in your mind are the, I don't know if you know, we just got the breaking news. Paul Ryan got booed this morning at the AARP when he called for the end of Obamacare, but what do you see as the big issues of the day?
Well, I'll tell you, I think what has been transformative for the campaign is that video that revealed, I think, what Romney and the ruling class of this country in general believe. You know, it was a discussion among millionaire friends.
Yeah. And
when Romney gets up there and dismisses 47% of the American people, and when he lectures working families about personal responsibility and taking care of their own lives, when these are people, Tom, who have worked their entire lives, sometimes working 50 or 60 hours a week, raising their kids, in some cases serving in the military and defending this country. And now they are on Social Security, which they paid for. They're on Medicare, which they paid for. And they are lectured by this zillionaire-type guy about personal responsibility. I think that sends a very clear message to this entire country that Romney is part of an arrogant upper class that hasn't a clue about what's happening in America or has any respect for working families in this country. So I think that was a very significant development this week. The other thing that we are working on very hard is the issue of Social Security. Yesterday, I held a press conference with Senators Begich, Whitehouse, and Franken, and we released a letter with 29 signatures on it, which says to our colleagues and to the president, do not cut Social Security. Social Security has nothing to do with the deficit because Social Security is funded by the payroll tax. Social Security has a $2.7 trillion surplus, can pay out all benefits for the next 21 years. Now, we know what the Republicans have in mind for Social Security. Their long-term plan is to privatize Social Security so their friends at Wall Street can make a huge amount of money in commissions, etc. Their short-term plan is to make significant cuts in Social Security. What worries me very much, Tom, is that 4 years ago, Barack Obama was pretty clear on this issue. And he said to John McCain, he said, John McCain wants to cut your Social Security. I do not. And in fact, he proposed a very good idea, which I translated into legislation, which says that if you lift the cap on taxable income, right now, as you know, a zillionaire, somebody's making $10 million a year, contributes the same amount of money into the Social Security Trust Fund as somebody makes $110,000. And what Obama said, which was absolutely right, you lift that cap, and then you start off at $250,000, and then you go on up. So millionaires start paying into the Social Security Trust Fund in a significant way. If you do that, Social Security will be solvent for the next 75 years. I thought what Obama said 4 years ago is exactly right, and frankly, I want to hear him say that again.
Yeah. Do you think that capital gains taxes should also be subject to Social Security deductions?
Well, that's an interesting point. Yes, long term, I suspect that's true, and we want to move there, but that would be a hell of a
more and more of these banksters are taking all their income the way Mitt Romney does as carried interest.
That's right. So, in fact, so-called salaried income accounts for a very small percentage of these guys' real income.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
But right now, if you just do that, looking at income in the same way we do today, just do that, you will make Social Security solvent for the next 75 years, which is what we must do. And the point that I have been making over and over again is that many people take Social Security for granted. We shouldn't. It is on the chopping block. It is under fierce attack from people like Pete Peterson and others who want to make significant cuts. And by the way, when we talk about approaches like the chained CPI, and many listeners don't know what that means.
Right.
What the chained CPI is an inside the beltway term developed by right-wing economists who make the argument that the way we determine cost of living adjustments, COLAs today, is too generous. It's too generous. Now, if you're a senior citizen out there, you're going to say these people are nuts because in the last 3 years, while the cost of prescription drugs and healthcare has soared, they only got one cost of living increase just this last year. So how could it be too generous? But what the right-wing economists want to do through this change CPI is change how we formulate a COLA and make it less generous, which would mean over the next 10 years, if you're 65 today, if they got away with doing that, it would be a $560 cut. So imagine somebody earning $14,000, $15,000 in Social Security, $560 cut, and over a 20-year period, when you're 85, it would be $1,000.
Wow.
And importantly, this does not only apply to seniors, it applies to veterans on VA disability benefits.
This is kicking all those people to dog food. I mean,
Well, you tell me if you're 65 now, and when you're 85, if this change CPI goes through, which is being pushed very hard by Republicans and some Democrats, and this is what concerns me. But if that goes through, 20 years from now, when you're 85 years of age and you're trying to live on $15,000 a year, they're going to take away $1,000 of your benefits. And to me, at a time when we have the most unequal distribution of wealth and income of any major country on earth, when the gap between the very, very rich and everybody else is growing wider, man, you do not balance the budget on the backs of seniors trying to get by on $15,000 a year. You do not balance the budget on the backs of disabled veterans, people who can't work today, people who are suffering because of their sacrifice for this country. That is not how you balance the budget. You ask large corporations, 1/4 of which are not paying a nickel in taxes, to start paying their fair share of taxes. You take a hard look at military spending, which has tripled since 1997. You take a hard look at an issue that has not gotten the coverage that it needs, and that is these tax havens. What we do know from a study in the Senate is that we're losing about $100 billion a year from tax havens in the Cayman Islands, Bermuda, and elsewhere. The truth is it's probably greater than that. There's a study that came out a month or so ago suggesting that worldwide, not just in the United States, there's some $20 trillion being sheltered in tax havens around the world.
That's larger than the GDP of the United States. We're 15 trillion.
Yeah, way larger.
Yeah.
So in other words, the rich are getting richer. They are paying the lowest effective tax rates in the modern history of this country. They're sheltering huge kinds of amounts of money in tax havens. Corporations are avoiding taxes through a whole variety of loopholes. And before you cut Social Security and benefits for disabled veterans, you look at those areas to raise the revenue we need to deal with the deficit.
Right. We have just a minute before the break. Other issues that you see front and center this
Well,
this
I'll tell
week?
you something. There was a piece in the New York Times today which speaks to the war that is being waged against the working class of this country. Quite incredible. What this article talked about today is that life expectancy, how long we live, for white women without a high school diploma went down by 5 years. 5 years
Wow.
between 1990 and 2008. 2008 was when we had the Wall Street crash, so those numbers are probably even worse today. But a 5-year decline in life expectancy for low-educated white women is, that's just off the
This
charts.
is demonstrating the failure of Reaganomics.
It's demonstrating the failure of Reaganomics, and it's really demonstrating in a horrendous way the collapse of the working class in this country.
Yeah, very, very well said. Senator Bernie Sanders is with us in the studio today. He'll be taking your calls next on our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie, here on the Thom Hartmann Program. 16 minutes past the hour. Check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov. You can drop by ours. You can drop into our live chat room, in fact, and say hi at thomhartmann.com. It's all free. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Your calls for Senator Sanders in our national town hall meeting coming up right after this. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Kay in Seattle, Washington, watching Free Speech TV on Direct TV. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello?
Hello, Kay.
Hi, I'm calling. my husband belongs to one of the biggest unions in the world, the Longshoremen Union, and he's a foreman of that union. He's been there for 35 years. And I'd like to share with Bernie Sanders, Romney wants to break all the unions. So he talks about creating jobs, but he wants to break the jobs we do have. And another thing, we earn quite a bit of money. We pay tons of taxes, which I'm happy to do. And I'm happy to pay that tax that Bernie Sanders is talking about, where it reaches that 110 and we keep paying that, is it a payroll tax?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like you say, that would cover a lot of stuff.
Yes.
We'd be flush.
Yes.
For 75 years instead of taking away from our veterans. And I'm willing to do that. I'm one of the people that, gets that break, but I'm willing to give that up. And these billionaires aren't willing to give it up. And I can't understand that.
Well, Kay, thank you very much for making that point. And the truth is, I know in Vermont, and I know that all over this country, there are a number of wealthy people who say, you know what, I'm an American, and I want our country to succeed. I don't want us to have the highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world. I want our kids to be able to do well. And I don't want elderly people in this country or disabled vets not to have enough food on the table. And there are a whole lot of wealthy people who understand that they are part of America, that they have made their money because of an educated workforce, because of a strong infrastructure, etc. And they are prepared to pay more in taxes, especially at this moment when the effective tax rate for the wealthiest people in this country is the lowest it has been in many, many years. But then there's another group of people. And these guys, these billionaires are saying well, I've got 10 billion, I've got 20 billion. That's not enough. I need more and more and more. And I don't care if I'm going to step all over working people. We're going to break unions. We're going to cut benefits. We're going to ship more jobs to China, because all that matters in my life is for me to become phenomenally more wealthy. And I think, frankly, that is sick stuff. I really do. Tom, I know that you know something about, you've worked in the area of people who have various types of substance abuse problems.
I think this is a variation on hoarding. Instead of filling their house with newspapers, they're filling their bank account with money. I think it's obsessive-compulsive disorder.
I think it is. And I think I look at it a little bit like substance abuse, people who can't stop drinking or doing drugs and so forth.
Yeah,
They
same thing.
need more and more and more, no matter what it does to their neighbors. And they're willing to step over kids who are homeless in order to make even more money. How much damn money do you need?
Yeah.
20 billion is not enough. 40 billion is not enough. So I think this is an issue we've got to throw right on the table, both from an economic perspective, because you and I have talked about for years, giving more tax breaks to the rich. Reaganomics, trickle-down economics does not work. Right. It is not a theory that works for anybody but the very rich. But you know what else I think we have to address? We have to address a moral issue. How much is enough?
Yeah, and that's a critical question. That is absolutely a critical question. Senator Bernie Sanders with us in studio today, taking your calls in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie. We'll be right back with Senator Sanders. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders in our national town hall meeting, taking your calls. And Scott in Skowhegan, Maine. Scott, you are on the air with Senator Sanders. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV on Dish Network.
Hey, Tom. How are you? I haven't talked to you guys in a long time. Mr. Sanders, I would like to know if there's anybody who is seriously considering tweaking NAFTA or possibly getting rid of the whole thing, because it's a bad deal. And I keep hearing people say, "Oh, we're going to create these jobs, 12 million jobs." Where are these jobs going to come from?
The answer, Scott, yes, is there are some people, unfortunately a minority of us, who are prepared to take a very hard look at our current trade agreements, which include NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, CAFTA, Central American Free Trade Agreement, permanent normal trade relations with China and other trade agreements. When I was in the House, all of corporate America came forward and they said, this NAFTA is going to be great, and CAFTA is going to be great, and trade with China is going to be great because you're going to be able to sell all of your products to these countries. Well, I mean, common sense suggested to me then, and the facts and the record suggests to everybody today that these trade agreements have been significant failures. What they have enabled large corporations to do is shut down plants in America, and we have lost, and everybody should be aware of this, 55,000 factories in the last 10 years. Not all of them due to trade, but many of them due to trade, because corporations say, why would I want to build a company in this country, expand manufacturing in this country, when I can go to China and other low-wage countries, build a plant there, bring my products back into the United States? That's what they say, and that is, in fact, what they have done. So, Scott, our goal, and it ain't easy, and I'm working hard on this, our goal is to demand that corporate America invest in this country, not in low-wage countries abroad. I'll give you one example of where we've had a limited amount of success. We have gotten some federal agencies, including the Smithsonian Institute, great museum, in their gift shops now to start significantly increasing the products that they purchase from the United States of America. And I just got a lovely email from a company in Vermont. We hear this from all over the country saying thank you, because now we're able to sell our products at the Smithsonian rather than products coming in from other countries. So it is an issue that we've got to focus on. We need to change our trade agreements. And in America, we need, once again, to be buying products made in the United States of America.
Larry in Louisville, Kentucky, listening on Sirius XM Satellite Radio. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Thank you for taking my call, Senator Sanders. I have a question that I don't know is even a smart one, but is it possible for me to choose Social Security as my retirement fund of choice rather than invested in a private account? So rather than paying in, say, 7.5%, say, could I add another 7.5%, and would that be of any financial benefit to me?
No, I think it probably wouldn't. What we have right now, except if you're self-employed, right now it's 6.2, Larry. You put in 6.2, and your employer puts in 6.2. And here's the story. When we talk about Social Security, we should not see it as an investment account. If people, want to play Wall Street, they want to make investments, they have every right in the world to do that. And sometimes people do very, very well. Sometimes, such as when 2008 Wall Street crash came about, they lose their entire life savings. Social Security should be looked at as a very strong insurance program which has never once failed. Social Security for the last 77 years has paid out every nickel owed to every eligible American, regardless of the state of the economy. It is an insurance program that, since its inception, has always been there. But it's not only for retirees. Larry, if you have a disability, if you incur a disability, Social Security is there. If the breadwinner in the family drops dead, then the wife and the kids get Social Security. So when you look at Social Security, don't see it as an investment. You want to get rich, don't invest in Social Security. Social Security's function is to always be there. Guaranteed benefits when you get old, if you get disabled, if the breadwinner in the family dies, so that the children will be able to have a decent income.
Okay. Diana in Galesburg, Illinois. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi. Bernie Sanders, you're the greatest. I just want you to know that. We love you here in Illinois.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm going to vote for the Green Party, and I was just wondering how this would affect the Democrats in Congress.
Okay, Diana, I understand why people would vote for the Green Party. They have some very attractive candidates, I think, who make a lot of sense. They're very good on the issues. So I can't argue with what those folks are talking about, because I tend to agree with much of what they say. What I would ask people to consider is this, is that if, say, I think Illinois is a fairly safe state, but in other states where Obama can lose by a few points if the Green Party candidates got a sizable vote, what it would mean to this country if Romney and Ryan took office. So my own view is I am strongly supporting President Obama, despite the fact, as I have stated on this show for a long time, I have some serious disagreements with him. I think he has not been as bold and as strong in a number of areas. But right now, my main fear is right-wing extremism, and what happens to working families in this country if Romney and Ryan and their friends are elected.
And we have two members of the Supreme Court, Justice Kennedy, the swing vote, and Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a progressive, who are rather elderly and frail.
No, that's
4 years
that's
is
right,
a long
Joe.
time.
That is right. And so I think, Diana, my view, and honest people disagree with me on this, is that the day after the election, the day after we reelect Obama, we have got to build a strong grassroots movement that puts enormous pressure on Obama to stand up for working families in this country.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie Hour, a national town hall meeting here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Bernie taking your calls. Coming up, more of that coming up right after this break for news and your opportunity to support your local station. Check out Bernie's website at sanders.senate.gov. You can drop by ours at thomhartmann.com. Welcome to a couple of new affiliates in Toronto, Canada. True Talk Radio has just picked us up. And also, we have a new TV affiliate in Lake Forest, Minnesota, now running a program. So, greetings to all of you. It is our Brunch with Bernie Hour. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us. Not on the line. He's here in the studio.
On the line and in the studio.
Indeed. So, let's pick up some of our calls here. John in Jeffersonville, Ohio. You are on the air, Senator Sanders.
Yes, Senator Sanders. My question is with regard to I'm known as the liberal John. I'm proud of the word liberal. I'm not going to walk away from that. I'm proud of that. But a lot of the people I work with, they're deflated because Obama didn't live up to the illusion of what they wanted him to be. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that we've got a choice between Obama and Romney. And the Supreme Court appointees that Obama have made have been great. And that's what it's about. And we've got to suck it up and do what we've got to do. In your opinion, what do we need to do to energize the progressive base, to get them back involved, and to get over this, whining and stuff?
John, that's a good question. And let me tell you what I think. In the real world, we have to understand what goes on. And right now, the big money interests have enormous influence over the political process. And one would be very, very naive not to believe that Barack Obama is subject to the pressures of Wall Street and big money guys. For example, one of my major criticisms of Obama is that he was not more aggressive in taking on the banks and Wall Street, which caused the terrible, terrible recession that we're in right now. I thought that the stimulus package that he proposed was a significant step forward in a terrible time in our economy, in creating millions of jobs and helping us move in a number of areas, energy, education, in the right direction. But we should have done more. I am a single-payer advocate, believe we should have a Medicare for all single-payer system. I voted for health care reform because it provides health care to another 30 million Americans, not insignificant. So here is my point, John. Barack Obama has not done all of the things that he should in standing up to right-wing Republican extremism. I think too often they've negotiated compromises in which the Republicans have come out a lot better than the Democrats have, despite the fact that on issue after issue, the vast majority of the American people support Barack Obama. I am very worried, as I mentioned earlier in this program, about what will happen to Social Security. Will Obama and his friends and the Democrats sit around after the election in some deficit reduction package and cut Social Security? Frankly, I worry about that because I haven't heard the president be as clear and strong on that issue as he should. But bottom line is this. Right now, everybody should understand that if Romney and Ryan and their friends are elected, there will be a war against the middle class and working class of this country, the likes of which we have never seen, not in our lifetimes. You're talking about throwing millions of people off of Medicaid, some of the lowest income people and children in this country, off of Medicaid, left out on their own without any health insurance. You're talking about the end of Medicare as we know it, and which means that many elderly people on Medicare will not be able to get the quality health care that they need. You're talking about cuts in Social Security and the movement toward the privatization of Social Security. You're talking about cuts in education at a time when too many of our neighbors and fellow Americans are living in hunger, major cuts in nutrition programs. All the while, they will give more and more tax breaks to the richest people in this country who are already doing phenomenally well. So, John, bottom line for me is we have got to defeat right-wing extremism. We've got to defeat Romney and Ryan. We've got to re-elect Barack Obama. But the day after this election, we have got to continue our efforts to grow a strong, progressive grassroots movement, rebuild the trade union movement in this country, which is undergoing all kinds of attacks, and then tell the president, Mr. President, you got to go forward in a progressive way. You got to start creating the millions of jobs that we need. You got to go stronger on health care. You got to go stronger on taking on and reversing global warming and transforming our energy system. So we have to re-elect Obama, build that grassroots progressive movement, and make sure he starts listening to working families, not just the very wealthy.
Kathleen in Laceyville, Pennsylvania. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders, I just have to tell you, I am so thankful you were there. You have been my hero for years. I just wish I had you here in Pennsylvania, but I do support your campaign. I've been sending money, but I just have two questions. Number one, do you think we can ever get rid of Citizens United? Because that has distorted this country completely, our voting rights, and they're doing everything they can to block people from voting, which I can't believe they even have the nerve to talk about. It's horrible. And can we put pressure or try to lean on President Obama to come out and commit to not touching Medicare? I mean, he's running for re-election, and he will probably be more open at this time when he wants our vote than he will be after the election.
Well, Kathleen, thanks very much for your support, and you're right on both of your questions, and let me answer them. Can we, everybody, I think, or I hope that most of the people who are listening or watching this show know what Kathleen is talking about in terms of Citizens United. Citizens United is a 2-year-old Supreme Court decision, 5-4 decision, which said that corporations are people with First Amendment rights in terms of their ability to make campaign contributions. It is an unmitigated disaster in terms of, as Kathleen said, undermining American democracy and what this country is supposed to be about. The results of Citizens United are twofold. Number one, the billionaires are pouring huge sums of money into the political process, mostly against Obama and other progressives, Sherrod Brown and others around the country who stand up for working people. The second impact that Citizens United has is it intimidates members of Congress from standing up for working people and standing up to the big money interests, because they're afraid that if they stand up, they're going to be subjected to huge amounts of campaign ads against them. So to answer Kathleen's questions, there are now at least 6 states in this country and hundreds of communities which have gone on record and saying we've got to overturn Citizens United. I and other senators, Tom Udall among others, have introduced constitutional amendments to do just that. And Obama's people are beginning to talk about the need to go forward with a constitutional amendment, something I want them to do. We have got to wage a grassroots campaign in 50 states in this country to say Citizens United is not what America's about. People like the Koch brothers should not be spending $400 million on a campaign, and we have got to overturn that decision. In terms of Medicare and Social Security, you're right, Kathleen. Right now is the time to force the president to come on board and say, I will not cut Social Security. I will not cut Medicare. There are ways to do deficit reduction which are fair, which do not negatively impact the elderly, the sick, the children, and the poor. We have got to come forward with a progressive deficit reduction package. I talked about that a moment ago, but certainly it includes asking the wealthy and large corporations to begin paying their fair share of taxes.
Matt in New York City, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello, Senator Sanders. I think the work you've been doing for us has been such a help in help us in this fight against all this stuff that's been happening to the middle class and the lower class, and I appreciate your help. But I want to just ask you a question. What do you think about this fact that I think that that so much money has been basically sequestered in fewer hands progressively through the decades, that may be having a dramatic effect in terms of money that is available to circulate in the economy for the rest of us. That it's basically been, put aside, like dammed off, and not that plus the fact that it's being used to manipulate our own democracy. What do you think about that?
Well, I think you're exactly right, Matt, in both instances. What Matt is talking about is the incredibly obscene and unfair distribution of wealth and income in America. It is not talked about enough. I talk about it all of the time, but I want everybody to understand that you got one family today, the Walton family from Walmart, that owns more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. One family. You have the top 1% owning 41% of the wealth of America. The bottom 60% owns 2.3% of the wealth of America. And that gap between the people on top who are phenomenally wealthy and who are doing extremely well and everybody else is getting wider and wider and wider. And unless we address that issue, the obscene, unfair distribution of wealth and income in this country, I do not see how we're going to have the kind of economy that we need and the type of fairness that we need in a democratic society. And in fact, what I worry about is the movement of this country toward an oligarchic form of country where a handful of wealthy individuals control both the economy and the political life of the nation.
It is our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders here in the studio taking your calls on the Thom Hartmann Program, our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie. Check out Bernie's website at sanders.senate.gov. You can drop by ours at thomhartmann.com. Free Speech TV, freespeech.org. Check out your local radio station. They have websites as well. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
More with Bernie right after this. And welcome back. Rich in Sun City, Arizona. You are, and thank you for watching Free Speech TV on Dish Network. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon, Senator.
Hi, Rich.
I have a couple questions. Now, thanks to Mr. Bush, we have a 26% tariff going into China, and they have a 2.5% shipping here. Why don't we renegotiate these tariffs?
That's on automobiles,
and apply
right?
Some of these tariffs to Medicare, Medicaid, and, well, we really don't need it for Social Security, I don't believe. I'm in total agreement with you. It's more than self-sustaining. Right. And people should view it as a savings program, not as a tax.
Right. Well, Rich, the issue that you touch on is a very important issue. It's not a sexy issue. It's not an issue that we discuss terribly much. But it does need a lot of discussion. And the simple question is our current trade agreements with China and with other low-wage countries working to benefit ordinary Americans? That's a simple question. Are they working or are they not working? Now, the supporters of these unfettered free trade agreements will tell you, well, look, we are selling products to other countries. It is true. We are. But what they're not telling you is that for every product that we sell abroad, there are a hell of a lot more coming into this country, and that as a result of that, we have lost thousands and thousands of factories in this country and millions of decent-paying jobs. So the issue is trade a good idea? Do we want to trade? And the answer is, of course we do. But you have to negotiate trade agreements that work for working people and the middle class, and not just the CEOs and the boards of directors of large corporations. And I think if you look at it that way, our trade agreements have essentially failed the working class of this country. And one of the reasons why working class people have seen a significant decline in their standard of living. 30, 40 years ago, if you graduated high school, you can get a job in a factory. May not be a great job, but you know what? You earned a decent wage. You had health care, you may have a pension. you could make it to the middle class. Today, those jobs are gone. And for high school graduates, there's the opportunity to work at McDonald's or Walmart's, low wages, minimal benefits. And that is one of the factors by which the working class of this country has seen a significant decline in their standard of living. So, Rich, what I would say in all respects, we've got to rethink our trade policy. The United States remains an enormously lucrative market, and I want American manufacturers and corporations to be building the products in this country that they want to sell to the American people.
And that's going to take renegotiating or just dumping some of these trade agreements?
Well, you're going to have to, well, you can do both, but you certainly are going to have to start from zero and make an assessment about whether these trade agreements are working. I think it's clear that they're not, and I think we have to start from the bottom and work our way up and say what kind of trade agreements will work for the American working class.
Somebody ought to introduce the Singapore, Haiti, Afghanistan Free Trade Agreement, SHAFTA, SHAFTA. So we can say NAFTA, CAFTA, and SHAFTA. Pardon me. Sometimes it's just, you
get carried away.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I genuinely do. We'll be right back with more Senator Sanders here in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie on the Thom Hartmann Program, 10 minutes before the hour.
We must be prepared to move forward in the implementation of these rights to new goals of human happiness and well-being. For unless there is security here at home, there cannot be lasting peace in the world.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour, our national town hall meeting with Senator Bernie Sanders and Jude in Madison, Wisconsin. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, it's lovely to speak with you. And Tom, I really look up to you as a role model. I'm currently reading Walking Your Blues Away.
Well, thank you.
My question is that I'm not sure about the protocol. Often I'd like to call into the president's hotline and say I'm a constituent, this is how I feel, or call a congressman and let them know about how I feel about a bill, or please vote this way. But I'm not sure about the proper protocol.
Well, Jude, the protocol is pretty simple. You get, my office and every other office in the Senate and the House and the White House, we have people at the telephones all day long. And your job is, in fact, to make those calls. And I hope, the issue that I've been focusing a lot of energy on lately is Social Security. And I hope, by the way, that millions of Americans, people who are listening to or watching this show, will call up the White House, will call up their congressperson, their senator, and say, do not cut Social Security. It has not contributed to the deficit. It has a surplus. It is enormously important. Let's get on the phone. Because I'll tell you, if millions of people do not start moving on this issue and demand that Social Security be protected and that there be no cuts, and the veterans organizations have got to get involved in this issue, because when you cut Social Security, you're likely cutting veterans' benefits as well. And if millions of people do that, they will not cut these benefits. But, Jude, please get on the phone, and it's pretty simple. I think, actually, you have a direct line here.
We have a website called callcongress.org, and it's got a couple of 800 numbers that take you to Congress, plus the regular number right into the switchboard.
And it's really, just go to the Internet. It is not hard to find out who your senator is, who your congressperson is. Call them up. They have 800 numbers, and let them know how you feel.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see here. Kim in Morrisville, Indiana. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello. Thank you so much for taking my call. I probably get my crazy ideas because I was born and raised in Vermont, St. Albans. But anyway, I just have this really deep fear and feeling, and I want to know if Mr. Sanders agrees. I believe the reason why Mr. Rove is backing Romney so hard is so that he can have another intellectually challenged individual so that he can be president by proxy. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am, though, and I'm concerned about it. I'm hoping that Romney is so unappealing that Mr. Obama can get in. I am voting for Mr. Obama again. I just want to know what you think, Mr. Sanders.
Well, Kim, I think that Karl Rove is a very, very smart guy. Karl Rove is playing a huge role in this campaign by raising hundreds of millions of dollars. What's it called? Crossroads is his organization.
Crossroads.
He has taken advantage of the Citizens United decision, raising hundreds of millions of dollars and targeting that money to where the Republicans need it the most. Certainly is of enormous help to Mitt Romney and Mr. Ryan. And if Romney gets elected, I have no doubt at all but that Karl Rove will be there as, either officially or unofficially, as a significant player in the Romney team. And where Karl Rove has been, unfortunately, if I may say so, very, very smart and very effective, is that he, does a lot of polling and a lot of analysis of the American public. And his main job in life is to have working people vote against their own best interest. That's where he is a genius in developing wedge issues. So you have a family out there where the guy has lost his job because it went to China. The Republicans want to throw their kids off of Medicaid. They want to prevent their kids from getting federal assistance to get a college education, and they're going to come up with the issue. Maybe it's gay rights or gay marriage. Maybe it's the abortion issue. Maybe it's a gun issue, whatever it may be. They will come up with that issue to have people vote for somebody who is representing the wealthiest people in this country and not that family's interest. And that's what they do. And that's Karl Rove's genius. He does it very well. And we have got to fight against that by saying, look, in this world, all of us have our differences of opinion. Yeah, I am pro-choice. Other people may not be. I believe in my state we passed gay marriage. I'm proud of that. Other people may disagree. But on basic economic issues of whether we have to create millions of jobs in this country, whether we have to change our trade policy, whether health care is a right of all people, whether we protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, whether we ask the rich and large corporations to start paying their fair share to do deficit reduction, the vast majority of the American people support those propositions. And we cannot allow ourselves to get sliced and diced by Karl Rove and other right-wing advisors. We have got to my mind, come together and make sure this government works for all of us and not for just the people on top.
Bernie, we just have about a little less than a minute and a half, not enough time, I think, to get another caller in. Your thoughts on what people can and should be doing?
Well,
and
I think
what's
Jude,
coming up?
a few moments ago, Jude raised an issue, and sometimes, sitting in the Senate, sometimes I assume that people know this, and maybe they don't. The fact is that every member of the United States Senate, every member of the United States House of Representatives has an 800 phone number, often to their local offices. And we have that in Burlington, Vermont. You can get on the phone, call them up, and make it very clear how you feel about the important issues facing working people. And I would hope that we would focus right now on telling the president and telling every senator, every member of the House, do not cut Social Security, do not cut Medicare and Medicaid. There are ways to move to deficit reduction which are fair, which do not assault people who are already suffering as a result of this recession. And if millions of people make those calls and let these senators and let the president know that we are watching, we can win this fight.
Yeah. And you're optimistic. I'm actually, frankly, I'm wondering if this is going to be a Goldwater year. We'll see.
I don't want to speculate, but yeah. I think, at this point, the bomber is doing well.
Yeah. Well, it is 7 days out, so we got a
long time remains.
Senator Sanders, thanks so much for being with us, and thanks for being in here.
My pleasure.
Thank you. It's always an honor.